pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Open Meetings Act. At this time, any members of the public who wish to speak shall each have 5 minutes and to address the court regarding matters appearing on the agenda or on an item that is not on the agenda. Anyone this morning? If not, we'll go to item number 1, which is to approve the minutes of the January 5th regular meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Item number 2 is budget transfers and amendments. You have one sheet of for the general fund, I guess, and one sheet for the special funds on budget. Budget line item transfers, and the other is just a budget amendment.
That second sheet is just for those donations that we accepted last
Yeah, and then we
time.
have some certifications.
Make a motion to approve the budget amendments and the meeting.
I have a question.
And the certifications.
Can I ask a quick, with the $20,250 election expense, and that's for equipment and furniture, is that for those machines?
Transferring for the poll books.
Okay, so we haven't actually bought them, we're just transferring over there?
Yes.
Okay.
We've gotten the final bill from them. They did send an updated that had taken off the one item that you had changed the number of machines.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carried. Item number 3 is to approve and pay the bills.
Bills on the courthouse,
What page is that?
page 28.
28? 28.
I saw that invoice in the auditor's office. Did we ever figure out the Larry Lynch bill for Liberty? It says Liberty Pump.
Page 28. Liberty Pump, JP. Oh, I believe that was leaking, and it had to be repaired. Isn't that correct?
It was at Richard's building.
Okay.
The septic is
Well,
leaking.
it wasn't at the Liberty, it said Liberty, and they didn't know where it was at in the office, and just making sure it wasn't at Liberty.
No.
Oakwood.
No, it,
Yeah, that alarm's been going off on that septic system, so. that makes sense.
I think there's a lot of stuff going around in the building.
There is.
Is it more of a virus or a flu type or
It's strep going around.
a lot of strep I've heard from people? Mhm. Every time everybody coughs, you think the bad word, but
Make a motion to pay the bill.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carried. Item number 4 is to approve the payroll. We have some little peppermints in there. Sometimes that'll.
She gave me.
Make a motion to pay the payroll.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carried.
What's admin time for on the district clerk?
I don't know what it's for.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really write it for us, it just says admin time. I believe that they normally give a little time before the holiday is what I believe, but it doesn't really matter.
Well, I know they always give admin time on the day before a holiday.
That's what, is that what I was saying?
Was that, Monday was the holiday, so,
I would have to go look and see what day they took it on, I'm not 100% sure.
who knows?
2 weeks ago, there was several admin,
Uh-huh.
sometimes.
That was the one that was before that holiday, for the, district clerk's office.
What qualifies for admin time? That's something I've never read.
I really don't know how to answer that. We
Feel good time.
feel good time, I guess you could say.
I know part of it 2 or 3 years ago. I never had it. somebody found out she could do it, so they do it.
Okay. Item number 5 is reports. I have a report from the auditor for December. And I also have a report from the treasurer's office that is based on that December auditor's report. This is the one that is published on the website. And it's supposed to be put on the website showing total cash and other assets on hand and debts of principal and interest owed by the county. Now, as to other reports, we have an auditor's report, and this is for the driver's license history review, and you have to do that once a year, is that right?
We do it once a year.
Okay. There were a total of 48 driver's licenses reviewed, no exceptions were noted, and all drivers were eligible to drive county vehicles. Isn't that a good thing? Okay.
Yeah.
If you have an accident in the county, you've got to be drug tested.
I think after the accident,
Yeah.
yeah. After an accident, I think you're supposed to for everybody. Mhm. Which is a protection for the county. All right, we have I wouldn't say an audit report, just a report, I guess, from the tax office for December the 1st of 2021 to December 31st. From the tax office. We have a December report from the county clerk's office. JP3 for December. District clerk for December. Senior services for December, but it also says dates and times for other activities for this month. We have the Freestone County Investment and Interest Earned Report.
When do we go out for this again?
Isn't it a 2-year plan, and we're in the first year still, aren't we? We just renewed.
In May, yes, and you
Bank
could extend it for
depository.
1-2 years, but then you have to go out for it the next time, so the next time we have to go
We'll
out.
have to go out the next time. But this is done in,
May, I believe, Judge Grant.
I think it is May. Okay, thank you.
So we'll go out this May?
Oh, the next May.
We're going
But
in.
now, let me go back though. That's for the depository. And, when we do a CD, we're not tied to that
That's correct.
same depository. So everybody looks at, the investment committee looks at the current rates for local banks and whatever we can get for the best rate for a CD we can do in other banks. You want to elaborate on that, either one of you?
I'm just looking at less than 1% on,
Oh, yeah, I know it. This time when you checked, some of them were lower than that, weren't they?
Yes. So each month I've been sending out an email to each of the banking entities in Freestone County. And so far, our depository has been the one with the highest when I check. And I have all those emails if you
But
would
we
like.
do
to
look
read
at them every time they renew.
And they really
The
haven't
CD
even
has
been
been-
close. The rates hadn't even been really close.
Yeah.
It's quite a change, isn't it? All right, I believe that is all of the reports. Anybody else have a report? Sheriff? Sheriff.
Give you an update on our jail. We do have COVID in the jail, so I've got pretty much half my jail locked down, restricted movement, cancel visitation for at least the next week, so we'll play it by ear from there, but, just battling that again. And trying to keep employees from getting sick themselves. And, thanks to Lloyd, we did find somebody that will fix our shower. And a lot of other things that we need done in there. Of course, now that's been put on the back burner because I have to wait till my COVID is
Till I get it
figured
there
out.
to do it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, at least we got that now planned because it took us a year to get there. So, hopefully we can get that going and we'll be able to put more inmates back in there.
Anyone else have a report? Do we have a motion to accept the reports?
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Item number 6 is to discuss the burn ban. We currently have a burn ban in place.
They don't.
Don't have any firemen here. Yes, we do. How are y'all up in the northern part?
I'm in this part. I'm
It's
the Fairfield
Fairfield.
Fire.
Fairfield, yes.
For
Sorry.
those of you who've never seen me, I understand I should come to this once in a while, so here I am, I'm new at this job. Long time with the fire department, new at this job. Anyway, I don't see any reason to take the burn ban off. We had a grass fire yesterday. When that wind picks up with 15% humidity, it goes. So leave it on for now.
Thank you. All right, no action. Item number 7, special road use agreements, contracts, permits, and bonds. Number 7. Do we have any? If not, we'll go to item number 8, to approve bonds and education certificates of county officials and employees. We have a County and District Clerks Association of Texas for Teresa Black certificate. We have a bond for Ashley Campbell, who is the new employee for JP Ford. It is a $5,000 bond. And I believe that's all we have for today. Do we have a motion to accept these, approve these?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the bonds and education certificates. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carried. Item number 9 is to consider a user license agreement for an online vital records request application. That would be me. That'd be you.
Here's a copy of the agreement, the contract. This is a company for Medium that they build websites online for the counties for the vital statistics, and that's where the public can go and fill out their own, if they're requesting a death certificate, a marriage, or birth certificate. It's free to the county, and we have between 50 and 100 requests for those 3 items that come into the office in a month's time. And so they do an identification, a government identification, just like if they came in our office, you know, they have to show 2, driver's license or passport or, you know, whatever. And they send us a notification when an application is complete. We print out the application on our special paper that we use, you know, that thick paper. They can come into the office and pick up their certificate, or we can mail it out to them. This company, the way they make their money is they will add a $4 service charge to each application. But we receive our full amount that we would normally get as if they came into the office, you know. And they will cut us a check on the 25th of every month.
Okay.
I'd like to try it for a year, and if people, you know, don't use it, then, you know, we're not obligated. And actually, if we send something in writing, we can get out of the contract at any point. But, I mean,
It doesn't cost
it doesn't cost anything. We can have a link on my website where people, you know, can link to that website. Or if they know what the website address is, they can go straight to it. But it's something they can do on their phone or their computer. It might cut down on traffic, you know, in the office. And I thought, well, you know, it's worth a try, it's free, so why not? But that's what I'm asking for approval today.
I bet sometimes people come to the office and they don't have what they need.
Right.
And they have to come back again, so it might be a real good service.
Yeah, but it's
If
all the
they'll use it.
questions that we ask them, and I have reviewed, I've seen videos and have looked it over pretty thorough, and it sounds pretty good to me, but anyway, that's it.
They still can come into the office
Yes.
if they want to.
They sure can.
Yes.
They can come into the office if they don't wanna do that, but, well, you know how everybody uses their cell phones nowadays, they just click of a button and they can request. And then the applications are put in a queue, so where, you know, and it tells them the progress, you know, when you apply for something, well, when you buy something from Amazon, okay, it's shipping, and then it's, that's how this is, and once it's complete, we are notified on our computer. And they'll also do Zoom training with our employees to bring them all up to date on what to do and how to do it, so.
Make that motion.
Okay. Any discussion?
Second.
Okay. All right, all in favor, aye. Motion carries. We have made the motion,
Okay, let's see. Craig?
and Lloyd second,
Okay.
and we voted.
All righty. Thank y'all.
Item number 10 is to consider an upgrade of the Ethernet connection with Windstream. You want to talk to us about that?
So just in preparation of talking about the ARP money, we kind of talked about maybe needing to, we've added on, the precinct barn, the constables down there and the JP annex. So over time, it's kind of just slowed down our 100 meg circuit that we have right now. It just slowed it down a little. I mean, it's still really good, but it lags occasionally. And so in preparation of looking at some of that money in the broadband type thing, we just went ahead and reached out to Windstream and said, you know, if we decided to upgrade, what could we upgrade for? And when we reached out to them, it was significantly cheaper for some higher speeds. And so if y'all so choose to want to look at that and go ahead and upgrade, it would be for the 60 months, and it would actually make our bill go down of what we have right now for higher speeds. So, it's totally up to y'all.
I'd like for us to think about this a little bit and talk to our people over there and see what, if we decided to do it, if we could pay like an amount up front out of this broadband so it won't be a monthly increase or anything. Let's see how we can cooperate.
It won't be a monthly increase.
It
It's
would
gonna
be
be
a
a
decrease
decrease.
already, but,
Or
13.70.
monthly fee,
yeah.
I should have said. If we can, if we're upgrading, maybe we can incorporate it into that and then pay that monthly fee up front. Can we do that, or pay it up front for a year or whatever?
I don't know.
I did not ask that question, so that would be something I would have to ask if we could
Because
do
you know,
our
as soon
something.
as our, I guess we could pay it monthly still out of that if it qualifies for the length of time that, but then after.
That's the thing, that's a 5-year,
Mhm.
is there any out in that contract? I mean, are we bound?
We're still gonna have to have it. Isn't that correct?
Right, it's our phone system,
It's our phone
so,
system. So just upgrading, maybe that, since it's upgrading, maybe we can pay it under the grant funds.
We can sure ask.
Let's ask.
Yeah.
And then y'all look at that and decide which one of these plans that we want to do.
when we saw it was cheaper, we just wanted to bring
Yeah,
it to
and
you.
I think it's a good thing, but let's just see if we can pay it out of that. Not an increase, but the monthly fee, sorry, I said that wrong. Switch a little bit of that over to a American Rescue Fund for as long as we can. All right. And, so I guess we see our current is 1370, and these other three are lower than what the 1370 is, so do we want to go to which one, I guess will be the question when we come back about that. And we'll find out from our real people. Unless you already know which one you want to do.
They're all three cheaper.
I know.
Thought we got a bad deal.
Well,
They didn't offer, when we signed our last contract, they didn't offer those high speeds. So it's, as it's progressing, and they're starting to offer higher speeds.
if we can qualify for it under there, we'll have to, I don't know what kind of approval we have to get from them. From
From
Brandworks
Brandworks.
already, so it can be included in that. And so if we went ahead and did it today, would that, if we didn't have it under that, then could we pick it up later? So I guess that'd be the,
Well, we still know we're gonna do it, and even if we approve it, we can approve it, and if GrantWorks says, yeah, we can do it, fine, if not, then our bill's gonna be lower anyway. So I don't think it's gonna affect if y'all approve it today, whether or not.
other than being sure that we're getting it and paying it out of the
Right, we won't know
funds.
that.
And we don't pay it out of the funds, I don't know, we can go back and later recoup it out of those funds, I guess is the way to say that. I'm not being very clear on what I'm
Well,
saying.
why don't we just wait? Why don't we just wait and see, and let me talk to
Yeah.
Jerry and see
Okay.
what they say.
Okay. All right, we'll table that one. I think it's a good thing, I just want to see if we can get it under there. Item number is 11, to accept the 2021 racial profiling report for the sheriff's department.
You already have that?
No, I never received it.
Never received it.
Item number 12 is a step grant from TxDOT.
That's the copy. Or that's yours.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to item number 11. If you would like to look at this report, it's just something that you have to send in, and it has to be approved through the court. So anybody would like to look at this, it gives the number of male, female, percentages of gender and race, and I think it'd be a good thing. Look at some of those percentages, you might be surprised.
Most of the women, most of the women,
We're getting worse by the day, is that what you're saying? I'm picking up on that. I could have just read them aloud if you'd like for me to, I didn't know that. I'll read a couple, then I'll pass these over to y'all. Total number of stops is 204. On the gender side, the female, white, 50, black, 11, Hispanic or Latino, 4. And on the males, and this is on stops. On the males, 99% white, 99 white, 21 black, 3 Asian, 16 Hispanic or Latino. Race or ethnicity, this is still under the 204 stops. 149 white, 20 Hispanic, 32 black, and 3 Asian or Pacific Islander. Was race or ethnicity known prior to the stop? 5 yes, 199 no. That's the number. 97.5%. They didn't know what the race or ethnicity was prior to the stop. Y'all want to look at that? We'll go on and I'll give you, we can look at it after. Do we have a motion to accept the racial profiling?
I'll make that motion.
Who's the first?
I don't care, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye. Motion carried. Item number 12 is the STEP grant from TechStop.
Representative from TxDOT contacted myself a few weeks, just prior to Christmas, advised that Freestone County was one of the highest growing counties in the state of Texas as far as traffic accidents and fatalities. They advised that there was a grant that they were offering that they wanted us to take advantage of. Pretty much guaranteed me the money if we did it. And what it is they're wanting to, it's a STEP grant, which is they're wanting to, the grant's for $12,000. It's to pay overtime for deputies to work 2 zones in this county, which is both on the interstate. The 182 to the 186 South 45, and the between 80 and 833 on the north end of 45 in our county. They're just wanting some more presence out there, which obviously you can tell in our racial profiling that our stops have even gone down, but that's because we're responding to calls or we're shorthanded too. They're wanting some more presence out there on I-45 to help the travelers coming through. Another thing that it's to pay $12,000 for overtime. Of course, they don't get overtime until after 86 hours here. So the catch to that $12,000 is the county would need to pay $3,000 in the what would be the benefits and stuff that would go along with that pay. Basically, I'm just looking for your if you approve the grant, we'll go ahead and send it on through. I've already sat down and worked it out with them. This is it here. That's paperwork on the 2 zones that they want us to work. Specifically, what locations. We have to be in those zones during all hours of working it. And that's just kind of a breakdown of what I figured the money would be. So basically they're going to reimburse us each month is how they said they'd send us a reimbursement for any overtime that was worked as far as the pay. But then the county would be responsible for paying the benefits off of that, which was about $3,000, maybe a little less. to continue with it or just tell them to not worry about it. I think personally it's gonna be beneficial. I mean, because when we have accidents out there in these locations, our 75 gets backed up like crazy. Everybody that lives here knows that it gets horrible, and then it gets dangerous on 75 as well, because there's nowhere to exit off. You know, there's only certain places you can exit. So when our I-45 becomes a parking lot, so does 75. And we got a lot of people that live up and down 75, and that becomes a little dangerous as well. So just taking that in consideration.
And if those officers were out there working that area, then you wouldn't have to send your regular people that were working out there, more than likely, because they would be out there working that way.
They would be working it, yes. And hopefully them being out there would make a great impact on how people are driving out there, yes.
It's just a one-time deal.
Yes, and it actually doesn't even, if and when we are approved for it, it won't even start until at least next October. So, just have to have it in.
This coming around October?
Yes, it's coming October. So, it'll be in, completely into the next budget. But there's supposedly they'll reimburse, they said they would reimburse any overtime for that month, each month, whatever the county paid out in that overtime, because I know the county don't pay overtime, so that was a big deal for me to make sure I understood that overtime paying part, so.
So when the 12,000 gone, it's
It's
gone?
over.
It's over.
Yes, we have specific times, we would have specific times, just like we have to have a specific place, like we have to work in those locations. We would also have specific, dates that we would, that we would have to work around the holidays, or heavy traffic times, stuff like that. That's when they want us out there, that's when most of the accidents are occurring and fatalities from those accidents. So we will have specific scheduled times that we'll have to do it.
Jeremy, because the county doesn't pay out overtime right now, how would they reimburse you? I'm not understanding that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I know the county doesn't pay overtime, so in this case, if the county did, in this case, they would be getting it reimbursed from the $12,000. So technically, the state's paying your overtime.
How would we show them if we're not paying out overtime though to get reimbursed? That's what I'm not
We
understanding.
would pay them overtime.
You would in
Have
this,
to pay them overtime?
you would in this case, but they would be reimbursing it, so the state would technically be, the grant would be taking care of the actual pay itself.
We would pay it out, and then we get reimbursed for it.
Yes.
You know, just like-
Up to $12,000.
If we're not working
Would
it
they
now,
have to
how are
change
we
the
gonna have
policy
those
since our
people
policy
working in
currently
that
says we
time?
don't do that?
We don't work it now because we don't work, I don't work them overtime.
Something.
I mean, in a record time. that's where the-
In regular time, we're answering calls, we're responding to calls, and heck, I've been shorthanded almost all year.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, we don't have time to work. But if you're gonna pay somebody overtime to come in and work after hours, then they'll be out there.
It wouldn't be the regular people that were on schedule
No.
that day.
No, I'll have my, no.
So those
I
people
can't
would
do
be
that.
still working and doing their regular.
Yes, this would have to be somebody that's normally scheduled off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And overtime would be time and a half.
Yes, and it's after 86 hours.
I'll make a motion to pursue it, or whatever.
I'll second it. Saving up the roads, the deal.
All in favor, aye?
Key dates.
Any opposed? None, motion carries.
And this is a similar deal that, the DPS, Department of Public Safety, does for the state. But obviously, we all know that the troopers are pretty busy in Austin, and then pretty busy down at the border, so that hasn't helped us the last couple of years either, so. This is similar to what they do. They do the same thing for their officers. They have a step, and when they go out, they work certain areas of the interstate. It just hasn't been happening, so now they're reaching out to the counties to try to assist them out. Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
13 is to approve the purchase of 2 acres and a building to be used for relocation of Precinct 3 County Bar.
We finally found a spot.
Finally found a spot. And we had, I had thought that if this happened, that it would really help us out on the upside because we can put our election person there. And then we talked about doing a central dispatch, that would be a good place for us to put that. Rather than having to get a different building for elections, because we really didn't have a good place for elections. It needs to be on a ground floor where people can come in and out easily. The election people not have to go like upstairs or, you know, have, we try to accommodate our election people as well as we can, because that's a big thing.
Those new trash cans are heavy when
Yeah.
they're moving.
Yeah. And so, it just seemed like a good fix without us having to get another building or trying to build a building or whatever. If, and I know you had said you wanted to move down closer into the middle of your precinct. And so I was glad that we might be able to accommodate in that way to have that and our central dispatch that we talked about last time. Everybody thought that was a good idea, so that might move us along faster. That's just my part now. You say what you like to say.
I agree with the same thing. I know Renee's out of room. We can't build anything just for elections cheaper than making this move and already having that structure over there.
And we really needed to progress fast with hers because elections are coming up pretty quick. And we need to be set up. And we just put her in a temporary place across the street on the second floor, which is not very convenient for the election
It's small.
situation. Anyway, what else? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's it, like I say, it just,
Oh,
I think it will cut down a lot of our travel time getting to where we're going to be working at. Cut down a lot of backtracking.
Can we still store stuff over there? On the vacant land? Before we unload cover?
I would hope so. Use it just like the sheriff department does. It's kind of a free for all over there.
Where's this 2 acres located at?
It's 1 mile and 2/10 north of Duke on Highway 75, right-hand side of the road.
Who owns it now?
Mike Jones,
What's it gonna cost?
$150,000.
What's it on tax roll for?
I don't remember.
we had talked about maybe getting an
Two
appraisal, maybe getting a current appraisal.
I definitely want to get an appraisal.
Yeah.
The building is gonna be about the same square footage as this building over here, without the awnings on the side. But as far as what's dried in over there and insulated, you have about the same square foot. There's, where we have a break room in there where the election administrator would be. This other one is a smaller office inside the big shop. And then there's another office outside the shop, which would be more of the break room. That building was built for heavy equipment. That man used to move drilling rigs, and so the slab on it is about twice as thick as that slab over there. You know, the building itself is in very good shape.
It's on the west side of the road,
Up on the east side.
east side.
City fence?
No, there is not a, well, wire fence. You
Yeah.
enter the property through an easement, which is a Anadarko or Legacy now lease road. And it's less than 1/10 of a mile off the highway. So there's a cattle guard with a gate on it, but there's not a tall cyclone fence.
Will there always be access to it? That road, is that gonna be a county road or is that an easement?
It's an easement that goes with the property.
I think we certainly need to get something in.
Well,
writing.
there'll be a title policy.
Yeah, it's
They'll
already.
assure all of that, but I think
what's this guy's name? Mike Jones?
Mike Jones,
Mike Jones.
had a company in there named Grace Trucking.
And then we would have to do a little remodeling on the building up here, for the, not much for your side probably, but for the dispatch. And that would be a good place, you know, for them to be, really. You know, all we have to do is, some walls and things inside there. We already have utilities to that, the phone system and all of that, so that would certainly be. And if we're gonna do that, you know, we're talking about getting this new upgraded abilities. So that would work for
The
us.
building up here was built out of Precinct 3
Yes,
funds,
yes.
and it cost more than $150,000, as I recall. What would
We
we
haven't
do?
looked all that up yet. We'll have to go back and see. But, because this, then it would become general fund expenses. And, we'll have to figure out how to make that work out. But I think if it's gonna be a general fund building, then we'd have to make that accommodation for it to be bought for Precinct 3. I know our auditor can figure that out though. Okay. All right, so,
That's about the nicest barn we got in our county that I tell you I won't believe from. And I think it cost about $300,000.
I'm thinking so too, but my memory's not so good
I'm
anymore.
pretty good at it.
Yeah.
That little bit.
Well, and that verifies, because I've said about 300,000 is what I remember.
This little deal right here, I've had 8 or 10 people call or me, ask me what we doing that for.
Mhm. Mhm. And it's a twofold. From the general fund side, it's to accommodate the elections and this central dispatch. And from his side, it's to be,
Quick in the middle of the precinct.
That's right.
Well, that precinct's kind of stayed the same ever since I've been here.
yeah.
Somebody built a Precinct 3 barn in Precinct 1 for some reason.
We knew that when he did it.
Well, but there was already a barn there. He just built a new one there.
And a can there.
So if, I mean, if everybody is,
Precinct 3 barn used to be where the dump is right now.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a long time ago. And I don't know why that place was changed. I don't know if I ever do, but anyway, if everybody is, I can't remember, let me just say it that way. I guess at this point, it would be to move forward to get an appraisal and to look into the actual amounts and how we're going to work that out.
Make that motion.
To get an appraisal and to get this all figured out too.
A second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed? None, motion carried. All right, and, do you want us to get an appraiser? We'll get an appraiser and get that. So if you'll get me the, specs on this, as
Parcel
far
ID
as,
and everything.
yeah, field notes or whatever, then we can get on that. Item number 14 is to discuss the COVID policy. You know, we had set this policy up, and I want you to take that and review it and see if we still want to operate under this. We thought surely COVID would just last a while and we'd be using these for a little while till the COVID was gone. Well, that certainly is not the way that worked out. So we may need to make a few changes on this to update what the CDC says and how we might want to proceed. So you've got a copy of that. If you'll read it, we'll try to have some recommendations for the next time. So don't y'all think we need to look at it and maybe try to update it? Okay. Then we'll have that on the next agenda. Item number 15 is a presentation by Candela Renewables regarding the proposed Varsity solar farm.
Howdy, good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Judge Graham, good to see y'all. My name is Evan Warren. I work with Ernst & Young, and I represent Candela Renewables for the next couple of years. Obviously, been pretty excited to get in front of y'all. I want to apologize. My COVID bingo number came up 2 weeks ago, so I wasn't able to be here, but I appreciate y'all's patience as we've been wanting to get in front of y'all here for a while. So like I said, my name's Evan. I'm based out of Austin. I live out of Salado, and really what I've been doing for the past 15 years of my career has been helping companies just like Candela Renewables kind of navigate Texas property taxes. And I think all of y'all are aware, you can see all the activity that's been happening here in Texas for the last 15 years of the explosion of renewable energy projects here in the state. And so Candela has been working and just finding a couple of sites here in the state of Texas that they've been actively developing for the past 4 or 5 years. And they found one here in the county that they're calling Varsity Solar. So what I'm going to kind of do is just kind of give you a brief history of kind of Candela, their history of developing renewable energy projects and solar projects, and kind of jump into some specifics of what Varsity Solar can mean for the county. So as you can see here, just kind of quickly, Candela Renewables was formed in 2018. But some of the principals of Candela Renewables worked with one of the largest solar farm developers in history called First Solar out of California. And so they've got a proven track record of a decade of being able to deliver upon successful projects. And to date, they've brought 7,000 megawatts of generation assets to the United States. On the second page, you're going to see kind of just a brief table of their history, right? As I mentioned, most of them got started working for First Solar in California. So you're going to see, a heavy concentration of solar farm development in Southern California and Nevada. But as the technology has continued to improve and become more efficient, they've been able to enter new markets just like here in Texas. I worked with them for about 3 years ago on a project that's now going in construction in Fayette County. We're also now working in both Grimes and Freestone now on kind of their next iteration of projects. They've obviously done some in the Northeast as well, and at your reading leisure, you're more than welcome to kind of read more about these projects down there on the bottom, or kind of visit Candela's website. But obviously, I know that everybody wants to know what does this mean for the county, and what is Varsity Solar. So first off, it's called a 200 megawatt. They're projecting it to be a 200 megawatt AC solar facility. And really what that means is that it's going to produce enough power for about 40,000 homes annually, right? So this is a very large scale solar farm. If built, if this site was selected, it would probably be about 1,500 of fenced acreage. The site that you see here, of course, my color toner died at the office yesterday, so I only have black and white. But it's fairly easy to see. You'll probably see the pin on this page here that says Varsity Solar. And then there's kind of the intersection of Highway 84 and 79. Down in Oakwood, or near Oakwood. And so I'd say about 90% of the project right now is projected to be south of 84. And I think while I tried to get the new precinct maps, we heard that it's been redistricted, that I think everything south of 84 is precinct 3 now. Okay. Whereas if I'll provide y'all additional maps at other points, there was a portion, that it would have probably go into both precincts, but I think it's probably fairly safe to say that 100% of the project, if built, would be in precinct 3. They've been working on the development and working with negotiating leases with landowners for the past couple of years. And they're currently doing interconnection studies to basically determine if the existing transmission infrastructure can adequately support, an addition of a facility of this size, and doing other environmental studies, wetland studies, all of those types of things to kind of just determine the feasibility of this project. As they kind of work through the development process, if those things kind of all checked out, the earliest that you could see this project being operational would be the end of 2023. And these solar farms are usually about a 12 to 16 month construction cycle. Obviously, there's a lot of supply chain issues in every single industry, and construction delays and everything that you can imagine. But if things work as they typically do, you would see possibly construction starting towards the end of 2022, with then being fully operational by the end of 2023. So local benefits, like I said, I know that y'all have seen, probably in every county surrounding y'all, a lot of, construction activity, new renewable projects going in, and kind of, what does it really mean for the county? What does it mean for the school districts? I kind of wanted to highlight a couple of these things. As I mentioned, the construction timeline will be about 12 to 16 months, but they're signing lease agreements for, over 30 years. So they're projecting full-time operations, if this thing here, the project being here, and being a taxpayer in the county for a 30-year period or longer. During that 12-month period, there's going to be a high amount of construction activity. Hundreds of temporary jobs, people being here. Both, I would say, highly technical skilled, electrical workers and electricians. But one of the other interesting benefits that it brings here, that it does have the opportunity, if there are lower skilled workers available in and around the area, there's a lot of work from grading, caliche roads, and doing other things that actually many of those jobs can be sourced at least locally or at least regionally for solar farms. But that will be very temporary, right? Over that 12-month period, you'll see a whole lot of those people working, shopping and doing here. But if and when this project goes operational, what they're projecting then is only about one full-time job. I don't know if you've ever been or seen any solar farms in and around the area, but there's essentially no moving parts, right? They're about 8 to 9 feet high, and they're on single-axis trackers that just track the sun. So those trackers have moving parts. There's vegetation clearing that needs to happen so that they continue to, vegetation doesn't block the sun to the arrays and other things like that. But, it's not like, a manufacturing operation that requires dozens, if not hundreds of jobs to operate. So again, what you'll see probably here is, again, one kind of full-time person, hopefully, again, being made by somebody that's here already or that we can convince, to move to the county. That job is a high-paying job. It usually pays about 110% of whatever your average manufacturing wages are already. So that, whoever is that person that is selected will be a high-paying job. As far as revenue streams, again, the amount of capital expenditures that is required to build a solar farm of this size is very immense. For a 200 megawatt solar farm that we've done here, what we'd probably be looking at the first year on your tax rolls that it's operational, which would be probably tax year 2024 under this timeline, you'd be looking at probably north of $140 million of capital expenditures. One of the other things it does as well is the land is currently, there's a portion of it that's being actively farmed, there's a significant portion of it, there's essentially no activity happening on the land, but there is an existing agricultural exemptions on that. Obviously, if this project's built, that said 1,500 acres would now be converted to commercial land. So the county would get two things, right? Immediately, you get your 3-year rollback payment, which is paid by the company, not by the landowners. And then obviously some new, the tax payments on the land itself, now at its market value instead of its agricultural value, also paid by the company, not paid by the landowners. So I just kind of outlined just a couple of the things that you see here. The rollback payment in total to both the school district and the county would be about $200,000. And then they pay $66,000 on the land only, right? Which is in comparison to about $2,800 a year now, or $760 to the county. So usually what we're seeing here is the payment on just the land, in the first year is usually, a 20 or a 30-year multiple of what the county's receiving annually currently. Obviously, as we mentioned, during that kind of construction period, every effort gets made to buy caliche locally, any other road materials or anything else that can be sourced locally, those attempts are made so that, other revenue streams and other businesses also stand to benefit should this project get built. Kind of the final piece that you may have seen because it's been in public notices, obviously we've been working with Oakwood ISD, Superintendent Mr. Holden. We've been working with him and his board to begin the value limitation agreement process with that school district. And we'd be glad to kind of show you those numbers, but essentially if the state of Texas approves our application and this project moves forward, Oakwood ISD stands to benefit. They'll probably get access to almost $2 million in funds that they wouldn't get otherwise, plus all the additional tax revenues that they would be taxing on the property itself. So they just passed some new bonds to be able to get a, a new athletic complex that was in dire need of repair for the longest period of time. And so what they've already started to project too is, again, if this project was built and those bonds were floated, then the tax burden on everybody else in Oakwood ISD, potentially that debt service rate that they have for those bonds, could decrease by a quarter or even half, depending on how big the bond is that they choose to pass. So they're obviously very, very excited, been very, very supportive of our project so far. But just wanted to put that on your radar in case any of you commissioners or judge had kind of either seen it, in their notices or just, from talking to your constituents and friends. So again, I'm here today. There's obviously no action item. This is mainly just more of an introduction. Commissioner Lane, look forward to talking with you more about it. And, access to roads and other things like that during the construction period are obviously very important for us to work through. But really just wanted to introduce myself now and see if you had any questions about renewables, Candela, or the project that I could answer.
Westwood.
Is he the main landowner?
The flat country to the right, where the Charlotte Lake out of,
And who is that?
Westwood Rattler.
Does he want to sell the y'all or lease the y'all, or y'all want to do it?
Say that again, sir. Does he lease to us?
Does he want to, or? does he
Yes, sir.
want
Oh,
to?
yeah. None of this is eminent domain. This is only under if the landowner is willing to enter into a lease agreement with us. We are not an electric utility that has any sort of those powers, and I know that the high-speed train has caused so many issues here about people using eminent domain. So no, this is only just the landowner's willingness to enter into a lease agreement for the land that they choose to lease to us.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
Where you got your thumbtack on there, that's pretty much that wooded area. You go past his headquarters, past all the open grass fields, and then it turns to woods.
Woods.
Yeah, and it's a lot of settled.
Exactly, yes, sir.
Doesn't look like there's any county roads to travel on unless you got to use 300.
And that's probably, as we do our kind of engineering studies, when we get 10%, 40%, 90%, we'll know more of kind of just the access points, logistics of material being delivered and what's going to make the most sense. But obviously our normal course of action, once we know what that is to bring it to the court too with a road use agreement. So should we need to, right, major tenants of there that, will post bonds and then return any road to better, or the same or better condition if any damage was done.
How is this benefiting Oakwood ISD and not Fairfield ISD? That's where all our kids go to school, is Fairfield ISD.
I think it's just when you see those boundaries and as you see the county and where Oakwood ISD's boundary is, it just falls into just this one sliver. When I went to the school district, obviously they had no idea I was going to Freestone County too. So I said, I think it's just the way that the boundaries are drawn and just the way that it is.
We have some.
So in other words, it's being built here, but it's benefiting Leon County.
Well, no, I mean, for the tax base of the
School
county.
district, but the county
Benefit
tax.
Oakwood
would be-
ISD would benefit Freestone County.
Yes. So yeah, no, like I said, I think it's just kind of just one of those intricacy things, how those boundaries get drawn and how those things are. But obviously, I know Oakwood is, they haven't seen this kind of, potential investment, historically ever. If and when this project was built, obviously it would be the largest taxpayer. I'm not sure what it would be in Freestone County, but probably within the top 10 as well, should the project get built.
Sounds better than chicken farm.
Because they won't tear up the roads. All right. Thank you for coming today. Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
No, thank y'all.
We have your card. If we have some, we'll call you later.
Okay, absolutely.
Make it through. All right, thank you. We'll now go to item number 16 to discuss the ARPA funding. I know we have some people here that would like to maybe talk to us a little bit. Would you like to talk about things you would like to have considered?
I think most of you are aware of the emergency preparedness plan that's come down from the state legislature that's requiring us to file a plan by March 1st, and then we have to implement the plan by July 1st, which is not going to be possible for any of these water companies. For one, we can't get our hands on generators. We really expect this legislature to move these dates a little further out. We can file for one extension. It's a 90-day extension, but it can only be on one date or the other. It cannot be an overall extension for everything. So our plan is to file our plan with them on March 1st and file for an extension for the July 1st implementation date. I sent you the spreadsheet a couple months back that's kind of got a list of everything that our system is looking at and needing right now, and we cover a big portion of Precinct 2 and 3. We have 1,203 meters right now, which equates to, I think, right at about 3,600 population served. TCEQ requires us to just multiply our meters by 3 to get the population served, which puts us into the largest water supply company in Freestone County. We have, I think it's 9 locations with 11 to 12 wells total. Some of them are nearing their capacity with the growth that we've had over the last really 6 months to a year and up to a year and a half really. But this last 6 months to a year has just, it's going crazy, and we're getting 3 to 5 calls a week for new meters being put in or reconnects on a meter tap that had already been there that, you know, that we just put the meter back in the ground. We have added a buy-in fee to the new customers coming in to help build up funds for upgrades and repairs, and that fee is $1,050, and that's based off of our expenses right now. And that money goes directly into a separate account to be used for only upgrades and repairs. That's all it can do. That's going to take us some time to get there because that's based upon a new member coming in. We just started it, I think 3 months back, and we've got about 5,000 there already. But the repairs that are needed are not small repairs. They are quite expensive. We can suffice the rule that they're wanting for our plan that we're going to submit to the state with adding 1 generator at the Gorman well, which is on 179 just outside of Teague. The stand pipe you can see there when you come out of Teague. We have 2 generators now on two other locations, one on Freestone and one on Dew. So we feel like if we can add one at Gorman now, and we've already voted to approve putting that out for bid. So it's with the engineers right now finishing up so we can get that out for bid. One way or the other, we have to purchase that one. We don't have an option. We were hoping it was going to be 75,000 range. Our engineers thinking more like 125 to 150 with the increase of everything that's gone up and all the engineering fees and you know, install and all that. Because these are stationary generators that don't move. They are usually Generac. This particular one, we're looking at 60 kilowatt. Each location has to be a different kilowatt based upon the pump sizes and the, you know, the well houses and all. But the way we have our system tied together, we can turn valves and basically run the entire system, kind of, not really in a circle, but you know, you can visualize it as a circle. So we can turn those valves and we can open one well into another, into another, into another. So that's why we think we can get by with the rule that they're requiring by adding just this 1 generator at Gorman, if we put it strategically, you know, to where it can push. Now that is not going to be full capacity of water, and you know, it's not going to, it's going to have people in water if we have a situation like we did last February, but it's not going to be a, you know, good water pressure. It's going to be, there's water coming out of your tap and, you know, you can do what's needed and that's basically it. In order to provide full water pressure to everyone, we're looking at needing 5 to 6 generators in a situation that we had last February. And this plan that they're requiring for us to do is preparing for worst case scenario. You know, the likelihood of us having another situation like last February, we all know is probably not huge around here, but it's happened, it can happen again. So our goal is to have an emergency plan in place that will at least have water to customers, because we lasted longer than most of the others in this area, even longer than City of Teague and City of Fairfield did, because of being able to tie things together, but we did run out too. You know, and everybody drips their lines during a freeze, and they've got their faucets open, and they're not going outside and checking things because it's too cold or there's ice on the ground. They don't want to get out there and look, and you've got water flowing through a meter like crazy. It drains all of our storage tanks. So storage tanks is another thing that we're looking at putting in, but we don't have to have that for this rule. So right now, what we really need to concentrate is that generator at Gorman. And then we're gonna go to the next generator and the next generator, which is gonna be, it's probably the next 5 to 7 years, it's just gonna be upgrade after upgrade after upgrade. And we also need line upgrades. We've got lines that have been in the ground for 40, 50 years. And some of them are smaller than they should be, but they're grandfathered in. But so anytime we make a repair on those lines that are grandfathered in, you have to upgrade it to what's required now by the state. So there's a lot, you can tell by this spreadsheet that I gave you that's going to have to be done in the next 5 to 7 years, and it's just going to be one project after another. So we have filed for grants through HMGP. The application deadline was last week on that. We put 3 applications in. One covering several generators, one doing tanks, and one doing pumps and upgrades and things along those lines. And one for a SCADA system to where we can go electronic. And that's going to be quite expensive for our system because we are so spread out over mileage. We go all the way from up close to Butler out at the lake to down 1838 towards Oakwood, and then 75 to Buffalo to Doney to Teague to edge of Fairfield at Church Street, and 75 back. So we cover a large area of Freestone County. So there's just a lot that's going to have to be done, and we're filing for every grant that we can. I'm going to file for the FEMA grant as well, which I think is open until April 1st. But there's so much that our customers, we can't go up on the rates enough to get these things that need done. Yeah, we have increased the rate, and actually this month is the first time that it's going up, and I think it was 4 years was the last rate increase. It was the 14 years for the last per 1,000 gallons rate increase. We will probably have to go up again in October because we did a step this time trying to get up to what our actual cost is to the meter for our customers. Right now, we're not even charging what our actual cost is to the meter. But we don't want to jump that all at one time on our customers because we do have, an area that doesn't have a high income on parts of our system. So we try to give them, good 3 months notice, and, there's just a lot that there's no way that I can even go up enough on a rate to cover the things that are going to need to be done. So any grant help, any funds that you could, help us with, we would appreciate every penny. We know it may not be very much, but that's more than we had yesterday. So that's our outlook on it, and and it is going to go to nothing but upgrades and getting the system where it needs to be. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
Well, we've looked at the sheets that you sent, and it looks overwhelming.
Yes.
It does.
It is very overwhelming.
I appreciate the fact that that water system had previously purchased 2 generators on their own and had them. And I asked John about them and how often they tested the generators and stuff like that, and he said it's weekly that they make sure that they come on when the power goes off. One of their generators in Freestone didn't come on back during the freeze, and it all came down to the bendix in the starter wasn't sliding on the shaft engaged and had the wrong grease on it. And so I'd asked him, did they have to do anything to it? And he said, no, literally, they just put the correct type of grease on the fenders. And that's the only reason, but still with one generator, like you said, that water lasted longer than anything else.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, our guys, I believe John had 67 hours of overtime that week. I had 35 myself, and the other guys were in the 40s to 50s. We had one employee that spent the night at that well site during that storm in his truck, trying to keep, because he'd have to go manually restart it every time they would roll a blackout, you know, because that was the problem there, is they just kept rolling them at that location. But we have applied for the critical load status on all of our wells. And some of them are Encore and some are Navasota Valley, and Encore has approved all of them. But if they have a generator at that location, then, you know, that one goes a step down from critical load because you have some kind of backup source. The Navasota Valley locations, they're not really doing things the way that Encore has, so I don't know that they'll actually put it as a critical load status. You know, they have us on the list, is what I get told, but, you know, we don't, that does not necessarily mean they're gonna keep electricity on there at all times. And in certain situations, they can, like what happened in February.
We live in the southwest part of y'all's part, and we never run out of water. And it was ice and snow for 11 days in my house.
There were parts of it that did not run out at all. And then Do Well was supporting, I think, 4 or 5 wells, and that's when it went dry because the storage tanks had sucked everything out of them because the lines froze up and you couldn't pump anything out of the ground. We have purchased propane heaters, large ones, or tanks and heater heads for each well site now, and for each well house, and those are there. So now our guys can turn those on, so we don't have to depend upon getting some other form of heat to there to try to, you know, thaw those pipes out if necessary. We've taken all the financial steps that we can at this point, so the next ones are large expenditures and, you know, and you know, we have some reserves, but we have to keep so much in reserve. We cannot spend everything we have in reserve. So we have really kind of a small portion of the money that we have in the bank that can be spent, and we've already spent about $350 this last year. So we're getting near the amount of money that we can, you know, spend out of our pocket now. We did put drive-by meters in after, because that would have helped us to determine, you know, we could have,
where the leaks were.
yeah. I mean, we were going by four-wheeler and ATVs, and we were using customers' individual 4x4 trucks, because we didn't have any 4x4 at the time, and now our last purchase was a four-wheel drive truck. Our next one will be a four-wheel drive truck. And so we've taken steps to try to make things work better, and, you know, like I said, we're now to the major expenditures, and we're gonna need all the help we can get.
Thank you for coming today.
No problem.
Wow. Anyone else that would like to have some input for today? We're reaching out to see about other areas that have called and we've talked with before to see kind of where we are, and we're still trying to get information from. Would you like to say what Jerry with Grant Works had told you? We reached out to her again.
So I reached out to them to ask them about the roads, because, you know, we were just wanting to make sure what the process was gonna be, and, you know, what we were gonna need. And she says that they hadn't gotten everything lined out, but they were still reading all of the fine print of the final rule and trying to get it all figured out. But she said that we would have to do an RFQ for an engineer for the roads. And so that's basically all she could tell me. But you know, I just talked to her this morning. I emailed her yesterday. And so as far as the roads go, because I know we were going to spend some of the money on the roads, And, she did tell me that we would have to have an engineer and they would RFQ it.
I thought Todd and, Romine were gonna be here this morning.
Well, I talked to Craig, to Kelly yesterday, and I think from what I understood from talking to him, they were going to go to the fire association and get all the fire departments to come together and make one big list and turn that in, and then they were gonna prioritize that, and then they were gonna bring that to the court. So it would, you know, so everybody wouldn't be here. I mean, it would be what they wanted, and they would make those decisions, is what I understood.
Yeah, and they just haven't gotten that.
And, yeah, they were just having, I think they had a meeting last night or something.
It's Thursday. Meeting's Thursday.
All right, is there anything else for today then? If not,
I need to talk about the mobile box. Dogan, Fairfield ISD has notified us that Dogan School is not going to be available to be used for a voting box.
all right.
Last time it was in bad shape, we couldn't use it, and we did a temporary change to the Truvine Doxa Center Church, South Fairfield on Highway 75.
We can't really discuss it since it's not on the agenda, but we may have to have a special meeting for that. We'll talk about possibilities because we're gonna need to know that pretty quick. So today is Wednesday, probably the first of next week. We're gonna need to, maybe like Tuesday, would that work for everybody?
I know Renee's got a deadline that she has to get
Yeah,
the
I got
ballots
you.
printed, and they have to have that correct
Right.
address on.
Right.
When's it?
When is that deadline?
Now, ASAP, probably by Monday, at least Monday or so.
All right. then we'll
I've got the proofs already done, I'm just gotta go over the proofs of the
Okay, we need
ballots.
to have a meeting Monday then. Do we have court Monday? Perfect, let's have a meeting Monday at 9 and we'll get that approved, so, we'll visit after court then, all right.
Did you and I have a meeting tomorrow with another solar proponent? It's called Solar Proponent, and they're putting a solar, or projecting to put one in Freestone County and in Navarre County. It will be in my precinct and also in Navarre County. And I think there's about 5,500 acres of land that they've acquired. And so they will be putting, or thinking about putting a solar thing there. And so we have a meeting tomorrow at
We
11.
might put something on the agenda about that and then we can keep it updated.
Things up on one Saturday, so we'll just.
Okay.
Hey, did you ever hear from the contractor on the damage on 601?
Yeah, no, I've had no response the last 2 times.
Any, paid nothing?
Correct.
All right, any comments from Commissioners Court?
I was just gonna say, we got a thank you card from the, Emily Ann Jones for a plant that we sent, our employee Keith Jones, it's his mother, and so we got a thank you card.
All right. is there
I make a
anything else?
motion to adjourn.
Second.